Hi, and welcome to another edition of Ideas in Work and Beyond. My name is Al Robinson. I am the publisher of Hat City Blog, and I'm also an online journalist for the Danbury News-Times. Marty is still on vacation. He will be here next week, and next week we'll be having an all-star cast of characters talking about all the upcoming races in the greater Danbury area. But today we're going to do things a little different. Usually we'll have a guest, we'll talk about a topic, but from time to time people who spot me on the street and know me from what I do, they'll come up and say, hey, you know, I see you shoot a lot of videos of a lot of meetings and stuff, and you don't usually show all that stuff on your website. What's going on? So today I'm dedicating this hour to rolling some footage of meetings and events in the Danbury area that you didn't necessarily see on other cable shows or you haven't seen in the news. Because my big thing is that I want to show people everything that's happening down in city government, because it's not, in my opinion, city government is not really being covered as much as it should be covered. And the more information you get out to the public, the better it is for people, because right now this is an election year, and you should have a real well-rounded knowledge of what's happening at City Hall before you pull that lever and vote for your candidates. So starting things off, we're going to go back a little bit in time and talk about the salary contract that was done with the school administrators. For those who have been watching this show, I've had as a guest here Minority Leader Tom Sadi of the Common Council, and he has been leading the way in terms of addressing the salary increases for the school administrators here in the Danbury area. So I won't give out all the details right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you video from a budget meeting that was done early this year. I think it was probably January or February, where Mr. Sadi addressed some of the salary concerns he had with certain teachers. Two teachers in particular, two principals in particular, received a 9% pay increase on the 1 year, while teachers were giving back some of their salaries in order to keep some of their jobs. So without further ado, the guy in the back, if you can just roll that clip for us, and we'll see what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to get a scope of, I know Superintendent Pascarella mentioned not taking a pay increase. That's something that's being discussed potentially right now as a possibility, but it's hard to swallow, and I understand everybody deserves compensation for work done. But when we're talking about looking at the teacher's contract, which I have some significant concerns about, I have some issues here, obviously, with the administrator's salaries. I think a lot of people do. I know it was an arbitration. It was rejected, I believe, by the board. No? Yeah. But, hold on, and the chair will control who comes up here.
I'd like to stay out of the administrators.
Well, the reason I think it's appropriate, if we're talking about the whole city budget and how that impacts the city, I think we need to look at also how much is paid to other people within the school system.
For attorney reasons, I think that other people want to have a question.
We can, just as a matter of, just a point of order, to Corporation Council, we can start a meeting later than notice, we just can't start it earlier than notice, correct? That's correct. Thank you. I know there's several council members up here that have concerns about what they see as increases, significant totals in the administrator salaries. And I think we need to get a sense of what the administrators of the spreadsheet are willing to potentially give back voluntarily to the city. We're looking at state worker layoffs, we're looking at state give back, furlough days, potential cuts in hours equating to commensurate cuts in salaries. I think we need to look at the whole picture. And I have a question. Somebody indicated to me that, in particular, pointed out two principals who are going from, in the second year, I think 09 and 10 of this contract, from roughly $118,000 to $129,000. And that represents about a 9% increase. And that is, I just want to see if is that accurate?
It is accurate. Okay. And the two positions you referenced are part of a arbitrated agreement.
I understand that. I understand that, and that's why I brought the issue of voluntary. I know it's arbitrated, and I know there's not much we can do about that.
I think, Tom, that your question, I think that there might be some confusion. There's the administrators, which there are 60 in the administrators union, approximately between 50 and 60, and then the cabinet members, Mr. Longo, Mr. Gray, Dr. Deluski, Dr. Glass, Joyce Emmett. They are not part, actually Joyce is, but the rest of them are not part of that union. So may I see that sheet?
Yes.
Right, so the cabinet members aren't part of that union, okay, that went into arbitration for the 4.5. Okay, their salaries, their contracts are negotiated and voted on by just the Board of Education during the springtime. Okay.
So now,
the board is mindful of the dire economic circumstances, and while I can't tell anyone out of respect to those individuals that we were referring to, I can tell you that the Board of Ed is very mindful, and that the tone has been set as far as the board is concerned by the superintendent freezing his pay.
just so I understand that, through the chair to the chair. So these 16 are the cabinet, and that their award, their compensation package is voted on by the Board of Ed.
There aren't, I don't think there are 16. Your list is an amalgamate of people. So like Dr. Glass, Dr. Deluski, Mr. Longo, Mr. Gray, and Joyce Emmett. Joyce Emmett is a union member. Those are cabinet members. Okay, those contracts are voted on by the Board of Ed. They aren't for any union. I think that's where we were getting confused. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. Describes the category, but still the same concerns remain.
All right. That was some video footage from a budget meeting that happened where Tom Sadi was addressing the salary increases for certain school administrators while teachers were getting a pay cut. I think that was probably in January or maybe early February. So what I'm going to do right now, after that meeting was done, maybe a week or two later, I had Minority Leader Tom Sadi on the show to address his concerns regarding the salary increase for the administrators and why he felt that was not the really good thing to have done, seeing that teachers were giving back parts of their salaries while school administrators were getting a 9% pay increase for 1 year. So without any further ado, if you can just run that video clip in the back from an earlier edition of Ideas of Working Beyond.
Administrator salaries and the cabinet position salaries in the Board of Ed and how large they are in the percentages that they're going up. And I think the teachers have a legitimate gripe when they see 9.1% increases in principal salaries under the administrator's contract.
9.1% in 1 year.
That's correct.
What planet are these people living on? A 9.1% increase in 1 year in subject.
I just think that as a parent myself who's going to have a kid eventually going through the school system, that I can't understand the justification in increasing somebody's salary 9.1% while you're laying off teachers. It's hard to swallow, personally.
Right, and part of this falls into when contracts are rejected and they go to arbitration. There are awards,
right?
And unfortunately, sometimes those awards can be beyond what you initially rejected, and it's part systematic,
right?
And it's also part negotiation, and that's the problem here. But also, as I think we've all discussed, is some of this stuff can be done voluntarily. Just because you can get it doesn't mean you should keep it.
Right.
And other people who can get what they got, if they should keep some of it. But a 9.1% from 09 to 10 up to $129,000, that just seemed very excessive. And that's what I pointed out at the council meeting.
Okay, so right there you saw a clip from back in February of this year of Minority Leader Tom Sadi addressing his concerns regarding school administrators getting what I would consider a pretty hefty salary increase while teachers are giving back some of their pay raises. So let's just jump forward a little bit to June of this year. I'm just looking at my laptop to look at the article here. On the June 25th edition of the News Times, an article was done in which it was told that school administrators actually gave back some concessions. And what was done was that the school administrators gave 2 furlough days back in terms of giving money back to the city. And what has happened since then is that Mr. Sadi, again, has come forward and he's addressing more concerns about this because as you'll see in this video clip that I did of Mr. Sadi down at City Hall earlier this week, the 2 furlough days, in his opinion, and the opinions of many people, don't really add up in terms of giving back money in terms of a salary. So think of it like this. If you're making $100,000 a year, and then you make $110,000 a year, or $109,000 a year, and you give back 2 furlough days, well, you still are making $109,000 a year, so your next pay raise is going to be way up here. Whereas teachers were making, let's say, this much money, and then they took a pay cut and their salaries down to this level, which means the next time they get a salary increase, it's going to go up to like this level. So in other words, teachers, school administrators are going to still be making an awful lot of money, and all they did in effect was just get back 2 furlough days. So Mr. Sadi has some concerns about that. In my next video clip, you'll see him talk about exactly why he is a little concerned about furlough days as opposed to just giving back some of the salary, because you think somebody making a 9% raise was, give some of that raise back. So without further ado, here's the video clip from City Hall after the Common Council meeting where I talked to Mr. Sadi about his concerns.
Recently, there's an article in the News Times that talks about you not being quite satisfied with the give-backs from the administrators. Could you elaborate a little bit into why you feel that those give-backs, the furlough days, are not quite what you were looking for?
The first thing is, when the Common Council didn't approve the teachers' contract, in response to that, the teachers' union, I think, really stepped up. They gave back, not furlough days, which are just a temporary give-back, but they gave back part of their raises. In a multi-year contract, they went that extra mile to help the city and to do what I think we want to do in city government, is to maximize dollars to the classroom. The 2-day furlough give back by the administrators is a step in the right direction. But, first of all, it's not an actual decrease in salary or decrease in raise. Some of these individuals, including I think 1 or 2 principals, who got a 9% raise in the second year of a contract, 2 days, 2 unpaid days. I don't believe that was enough, given what the teachers did. And the second thing is, I don't understand the formula as to how 2 unpaid days in an annual salary equals 1% of a salary, given that there's 52 weeks in the year. So that's another question I had, just on the actual formulary. But also, because the teachers gave back a percentage of raises, that means their raises in subsequent years will be a little less because their salary is going to be a little less. When you give back furlough days only, your actual pay stays the same, so when subsequent year raises are calculated, they're calculated on the larger amount. So they're getting it both ways. On the administrator side, I know that it would have to be done through majority decision. There are administrators who I know wanted to do more. And there are maybe those who wanted to do less. I think in the future, though, everybody is realizing that we're more in this together than we've realized. The taxpayers of the city pay for the city side of government and the Board of Ed side. The Board of Ed in the city should not be really adversarial entities. We have a common goal of educating our children. Let's have more communication, more transparency, and I think we'll all work much better in the future with the limited resources that we're going to have for many more years, I think.
Okay. Now, I know during the Common Council meeting tonight, you asked if there was a representative from the administration that was here. Did you request an individual from the school administrators to be here tonight, or was there any reason why, or if you did, is there any reason why nobody was here tonight to address your concerns?
I did ask that somebody representing the school system be here tonight to respond to the specific question, how 2 furlough days equal 1% of salary, and also to answer several other questions with regard to what was discussed and what could have been possibly given back when it came to actual raises. It's not that anybody said they would be here and they didn't show up. I know it's summertime, people are on break and vacation. I was told that I would, somebody would get back to me with those answers eventually. So hopefully at a Board of Ed meeting or a subsequent council meeting, we'll get those responses. The one thing to keep in mind is it's not trying to put any one individual on a hot plate, but collectively, as government, we're handling the taxpayers' dollars here. And I believe that government can do good for the people, but let's make sure we do the best we can.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it, and have yourself a good summer.
You too.
All right, so there was my final interview with Mr. Sadi from earlier this week addressing the continuing saga of the school administrator's contract and give back and concessions. Hopefully we'll have some more answers as time goes on, and once we get more answers, I'll be more than happy to bring that information here, or maybe I'll bring Mr. Sadi here on the show and he can address it, because a lot of people do have some concerns about this, and I know that the News-Times has done a couple of articles on this, but I think this is why it's somewhat important that you attend these meetings, not only the Common Council meetings, but more importantly the Board of Education meetings. If you're a parent and you have some concerns about, you know, the quality of education, or this situation with the teachers' contract or teachers' layoffs, it is imperative that you get down to the Board of Ed and express your concerns to the board. You know, if you don't do it, then they just won't know. So this is one of the reasons why I like bringing this information to you, so you can be more informed about what's happening here at City Hall. But enough about Danbury right now. Let's talk about the town next door to Danbury, which is Bethel. A couple of weeks ago, or a little while ago, I attended a lot of the caucuses. Like I said last week, I attended the Republican and Democratic caucus in Danbury, but in Bethel, I didn't have an opportunity to catch the Democratic caucus, but I did attend the Republican caucus, which was really interesting because the two-term incumbent, Robert Burke, the first selectman, was not renominated for a third term by his own Republican town committee. According to the article here, the News-Times, which covered the event also, First Selectman Burke only received 81 votes as opposed to the actual Republican nominee. His name is Mr. Krabass, Lawrence Krabass. He received 117 votes. And on top of that, his Mr. Burke's running mate for Selectman Bill Sifkin, who was of the Board of Finance, did not get a nomination, and he was defeated by the current selectman, who was a Republican also, Paul Zakowski, by a vote of 128 to 67. So it was rather interesting because Mr. Burke decided, I guess according to news articles, that to seek another term as a first selectman at the very last moment. And I guess it didn't jive very well with the Republican Town Committee. And as you'll see in this video clip, there seems to be a lot more going on just besides this. There seems to be a lot of turmoil or friction or conflict between Mr. Burke and his faction of people and the people at the Republican Town Committee. At least that's my impression, because as you see in this video clip, we're going to show you the clip, in this clip, the chairman of the Republican Town Committee giving the vote totals, and then you'll see Mr. Zakowski, who was actually the selectman with Robert Burke for the last two terms, get up, and I just want to use his quotes from the News-Times article. He says he's going to bring back a sense of integrity, openness, and honesty, and that will promote our community. Now, you have to understand, he's saying this in light of Mr. Burke, the first selectman, being the incumbent for the last two terms, and he being a selectman for the last two terms. So it was somewhat unusual for him to use those terms such as like integrity, openness, honesty. It's kind of implied that Mr. Burke was not a man of integrity, not very open, and not very honest. So at least I thought that was a little unusual for somebody to say something like that to a fellow Republican, not only a fellow Republican, but a fellow selectman. So it just gives you a little insight, at least in my opinion, that there might be some unease amongst some members of the Republican Party. But enough of me babbling, let me just show you everything as it happened. So from the Republican Town Committee's caucus in Bethel, here is video footage of everything as it went down.
We finished counting the ballots, and we have the official count.
Get closer, Paul.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, for the police division, Grasso, 158 votes. Greco, 155. Ellis, 153. Chase, 45. Newby, 43. For selectmen, Zatkowski, 128, Slivkin, 67. And for first selectman, Kravis, 117, Burke, 81. Okay, so the official slate going into the election, or coming out of the caucus, is Lawrence Kravis, Paul Zatkowski, Lisa Bird, Robert Kozlowski, Stuart Carlson, Scott Clayton, Melanie O'Brien, Jill DeRosa, Cynthia McCorkindale, Alfred J. Bernard, Linda Curtis, J. Philip Gallagher, Timothy Draper, Gary Regan, William Pinkston, William Michael, Ken Stevens, Rodney Haas, Gervais Kiernan, Tricia Risk, Kitty Grant, John Lennon, Steve Michelle, Hugo Greco, Danny Grosso, Nicholas Ellis, Peter Verderosa, Nicholas Sandella, John Streeman, and William Foster. Is there an excessive speech? Mr. Zatkowski.
This is just a very brief commentary. I'd like to thank everyone here tonight for attending tonight's caucus. Looking through the real goodness here is democracy in action. All of us here tonight are really concerned with the direction of our local government. Unlike the federal government, the state government, it's our town's government that we can influence immediately relative to the direction of future operations of the municipal center as well as the education of our children. Speaking in behalf of the candidate for first selectman, Larry Kravis, and myself as a candidate, that will occur if we're elected in this administration. These fundamental promises will occur immediately upon taking office. We have municipal government. We will have municipal government with integrity, open communication, honesty, promotion of our community, and a government of the people. You know, when you take a look at this, I'd like to thank you personally again for coming here. This essentially starts the 2009 campaign for tonight's meeting. Your support is appreciated here tonight, and both Larry and I look forward to working with all of you for a victory in November. Just to make it brief, I'd like to say thank you for coming here tonight.
All right, Paul.
Okay, so there you saw Mr. Zatkowski, the selectman, making his speech in which he talked about having integrity and openness and honesty in the office. Make a long story short, I did talk, well, I didn't talk very briefly, but I was able to talk a little bit with Mr. Burke, and he also mentioned this in the News Times article that he is going to be seeking a primary and collecting the signatures necessary to force a primary. And in the News Times article in August 3rd, again, this to me it just seems like it's a little odd, but the town committee chairperson spoke in describing Mr. Burke as a rogue candidate. And again, I just think that's a little unusual for a person who is the chairman of the Republican Town Committee of Bethel to talk about a fellow Republican who's the first selectman incumbent as now a rogue candidate. So there's going to be some interesting developments happening in Bethel. I think that's one of the races you're going to want to watch. And on the Democratic side, we have Matt Knickerbocker, who is running on the Democratic slate as the nominee for the first selectman. So what I did, and I didn't make the caucus like I said, but I did instead go to the Democratic Town Committee picnic in Bethel, and I had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Knickerbocker as well as the head of the Democratic Town Committee, Alice Hutchison, about the Democratic slate and their chances on taking back the selectman seat. I know it's been a little while since Democrats have had control of Bethel, so I wanted to talk to them about that. So without any further ado, let's just run that video clip and enjoy.
I know you guys just had your caucus. I know you're now the official nominee for the party.
That's right.
And just tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Well, I am a 27-year resident of the town of Bethel, originally moved from the Midwest. My wife and I raised 2 children here in Bethel. They both went to the Bethel public school system, both proud graduates of Bethel High. I have a 30-year career in business as a sales and marketing executive, and I'm currently working as a career consultant in career transition. I help people who've been laid off from their jobs. I teach them career skills and job hunting skills, interviewing skills, try to help them get back up on their feet. I'm running for first selectman in Bethel because I believe this town needs a change in leadership. It needs leadership that I think is lacking right now. We need a plan to address our infrastructure. We need an open government that has meetings at times when the citizens can attend those meetings. If you look at our record, there have been a lot of meetings over the past 2 years that are canceled and then rescheduled for mid-afternoons when nobody else can come. We need transparency, we need fiscal accountability, and we need somebody that can put together a 5-year plan that helps our citizens, communicates with them so that they know what to expect from their government, and they know when their town is going to move forward.
Right. Now, if people want to find more information about you and your platform, where can they go to on the internet?
They can find us at www.mattenrich2009.com, and they can find all of our platform statements. It's under construction right now. We have some of our information up, but as we move along, you will find information on our platform across the board.
All right. Well, I'm sure I'll be seeing you around the campaign trail as time goes on. And
yes, you will.
For your time.
Thanks, Al. Nice talking to you.
Okay, I'm here with State Representative Jason Bartlett, who represents Danbury as well as Bethel. And since we're here talking about Bethel, I wanted you to tell the audience a little bit about Matt Knickerbocker and why you feel he is the best candidate for first selectman.
Well, first of all, he's been a public servant for over 10 years, giving his time on the Board of Education, caring about the kids in our community. He is a person of integrity. I want to say he has a brain. He has worked in the corporate field for a long time, and I think he can run the town and run it effectively. You know, we all care about taxes, and in this tight economic time when the state hasn't even passed the budget, we need somebody who can manage our affairs. And I'm fairly confident that with his background, his education, and his commitment to the people, that he'll be able to do that quite well.
I see there's a lot of enthusiasm down here for the ticket. It's a big turnout for a lot of enthusiasm for the ticket. It's a lot of people here for the picnic. What are your reflections on the turnout here, and what are you hearing around Bethel about this ticket?
Well, I mean, Matt's a leading vote-getter in Bethel. Richie Straighton has a name that goes back years and years and years in terms of being his whole family giving to the Democratic Party and giving to this community. So I think people are really excited. We're running a ticket. We're unified, up and down. We have qualified people, whether it be planning and zoning, Board of Education, Board of Finance. And the Republicans are eating their own. I mean, they're just, there's going to be, I believe, a Republican primary. I think that they're not unified. I think that they are wallowing in their failures. And, you know, it's our time. It's been a while. And we need to come back and bring our town into the next decade. And we need to try to protect our taxpayers and look out for our kids. So I think people know that times are changing here in the town, and they want to be a part of it. So it's great to see.
Matt Knickerbocker and Rich Straighton bring a great pairing to the top of the ticket. Matt Knickerbocker's had many years as chairman of the Board of Education in town, and Rich Straighton has been on many of the building committees, and that's only the beginning of their experience with the town. They've both lived here, raised their families here, they're committed to the town, but we have an entire under-ticket of new people, young people. It's very, very exciting ballot. Some people that had been elected formerly that wanted to get back into elective office have rejoined us, and we have great experience. We have great experience. We have new and young people that have been engaged. We have Matt at the helm. He has tremendous leadership skills and great potential for a good win. He's reaching out to voters. He's connecting door to door. We have websites that are up. We have you know, a couple hundred people here at our picnic today, so it's very, very exciting to see the support and the energy and the drive to win this fall. So we're all very excited, very proud of the team.
All right, well, I've been to several of your picnics, eating up on your chicken and stuff, and this I have to say by far this is one of the largest one I've seen yet. So I see a lot of enthusiasm for your ticket. If people want more information about the slate or want to volunteer and offer their time for the party, how can they get in contact with you?
There's two places. We have two websites. The Bethel Democratic Town Committee website is betheltoday.com. Matt and Rich 2009 oneword.com is their individual website. It's still under construction, but we'll link off betheltoday.com. We also have a television show on Comcast Channel 23 Monday at 8, which is Bethel Watch. We tape many of the selectmen's meetings so that people can see what the current government, how it operates and what it's up to. And then on Tuesday nights we have an interview show which is Bethel Today, and that's Tuesday nights, Channel 23, 8 o'clock. And so between the two shows we're showing the voters what they have, and then our comment on Tuesday night as to where we're headed, what we would like to offer as an alternative. You know, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. It's new. It's forward-thinking.
I just want to a quick plug from my side also, seeing that for people who have AT&T or are out of the Comcast area, you can watch Bethel Today and Bethel Watch via YouTube on my website, Hat City Vlog. So there's many ways you can catch what's happening here in Bethel. So again,
the web is the way to go, and door-to-door is the way to go, and we plan to make full use of both of those because we really believe in our candidates and we want to get our message out.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you on the campaign trail.
Thank you, Al, for taking the time to talk to me.
All right, well, there you go. There was Matt Knickerbocker, who is the nominee for First Selectman. Jason Bartlett, I'm sorry I didn't introduce him before the video clip, but that was State Representative Jason Bartlett. As well, he does represent Bethel, as well as Alice Hutchison, who is the chairwoman of the Democratic Town Committee in Bethel, giving plenty of plugs to all her shows. Bethel Watch is a very good show. I do enjoy watching that, as well as Bethel Today. And on the Republican side, they have a show called Eye on Bethel, which you can watch on Tuesdays. I think it comes on at 9:30, although I could be wrong. But check your listings on Tuesdays, and you'll find out. So let's bring it on back to Danbury. And one of the things that drives me absolutely nuts in Danbury, it's not immigration, it's irresponsible development. One of the reasons why I started my website was to talk about what I felt was just absolutely ridiculous development happening in the area. Over the years, I've seen Mill Plain Road become congested because of irresponsible development. I've seen a diner on North Street pop up for idiotic reasons, and I don't think it should be there. I still don't think it should be there. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And I've seen a Dunkin' Donuts that has no business on Osborne Street popping up, and I think that's just another ridiculous thing. So to make a long story short, irresponsible development has been a big problem in this area for as long as I've been here. And that being the case, there was an ad hoc committee that was done back on June 23rd in which a piece of city-owned land was going to be sold to Mr. Peter Scalzo, who owns a building on the corner of Locust and White Street. And for those who don't know that area, I'm going to run a little quick video clip, and I'll be talking over it. So if you can just run the video clip, this is the property on Locust and White Street right here. And what we have here is this property right here, as you see, is going to be sold. The city was actually going to give away this land for a certain price to Mr. Scalzo, so he can put some additional parking there and for his business. Now, there's a few problems with this. First of all, if anybody knows anything about White Street, we have a lot of traffic on that street, and eventually down the road at some point in time they're going to expand that street from the current lane structure to like maybe 4 lanes, 2 lanes on each side of the street. And if you do that, you're going to have to do something with land. You got to widen the road. You're going to have to do certain things. Also, it's in my opinion, and an opinion to many people, you should not give away city land to a guy, to a business, just for them to make a buck. It's not a smart move for those who know. On the Hospital Avenue area, on 84 Hospital Avenue, there's been a doctor who's been trying to pick up some city land for a long time so he can put some additional parking on that stretch of road, which would just cause more traffic, and it's a nightmare. He's been trying to do this for as long as I can remember, and the Common Council has denied him time and time again because you should not be giving away city land to people to make a buck. It just is not a smart move. This is, in some ways, it's pretty much the same scenario. In this video clip you'll see from the ad hoc committee, you will hear the discussions in terms of selling this land to this individual, and you'll find out that you'll hear from countless people in the city that say, hey, look, maybe this isn't the best idea to do this. And you'll also hear the Common Council member for that particular ward, which is the 4th Ward, John Esposito, really gets, I've known John for a long time. I haven't seen him that animated in a long time, but he gets a little animated over the prospect of actually selling this land to this developer. And you'll hear some of the excuses that Mr. Scalzo has for taking over this land, such as like the land is not being kept up very well, there's a lot of weeds, and as you saw in the video clip, it isn't really that bad of land. In fact, it's kept up pretty well. So I'm not going to use up a lot of time here because we're running out of time in the show. So let's just watch this ad hoc committee, watch what happens, and especially watch what happens when Greg Seabury and Councilwoman Mary Teicholz wants to. Actually, I won't tell you what. Well, I will not tell you what they said. Just watch it and be interested, because this will tell you a lot about our local government. So, without further ado, let's just run that video clip.
I think, Mr. Yan, I would like to turn this over to you for a little bit for your explanation as far as what's going on.
Well, the petitioner, I believe, initiated this process. The city expressed an interest in purchasing the corner parcel which abuts their existing property, and we sent the planning, which gave it a positive recommendation, and the petitioner, as part of its acquisition offer, had an appraisal done which came in at $148,000. We have to fulfill all the normal requirements, but in addition to that, we need to take into account the fact that the city is planning to do some street improvements on that intersection, which need to be taken into account specifically somehow by reservation or contingency. And I don't know all the particulars of that. Perhaps we could, turn it over to engineering and public works to shed some light on it.
Would you like to access your...
Could I lead into that?
Sure.
In our review, there was a study that was done in 2007 by HEDCO for the city of traffic improvements, and it had proposed road improvements at that intersection improvements. Now, I don't have plans for that. There are plans available, but I think depending on Public Works, whether they want to continue that thought, that we need to ensure that adequate land is reserved for the city and not deeded away. There are some other details which were spelled out in our report to the Planning Commission regarding zoning issues and some other things. They are of a less important nature at this time. We had concluded our staff report by recommending that all the plans and documents be reviewed and approved by the City Traffic Engineering Department prior to final approval of the Office of Corporation Counsel, to ensure that is addressed. We probably need to do an A2 survey regardless, and that might be the time to do that.
If we can, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to just add to the record tonight. One of the things we do want to point out that the parcel that is in question is not a separate parcel. It is actually a part of the existing right-of-way for the city of Danbury. So it exists as a right-of-way parcel right now. So that's one thing that we do want to mention. In 1984, two people tried to purchase the same parcel, close to the same parcel, and at that point the Public Works Commission recommended a denial of both petitions. And our position in this is that if we do sell this, it will basically eliminate any opportunity for any improvements to that intersection, such as a right turning lane or any other type of improvements for sight distance. And there's a bunch of utilities that are underneath this parking lot, so there'll be several easements that would have to be taken into place, and there would have to be some future consideration for maintenance of those utilities. And the other thing that we also want to tell the applicant currently is that although he's prepared what appears to be some kind of a proposed site plan, there's no guarantee that that site plan after the sale of this property will ever be approved. We really don't know the impact of this proposed site plan to the traffic. As you know, it is a tough intersection, and there is a driveway what looks to be of considerable utility as far as utilizing a bunch of parking that may have a significant impact to that intersection. So just a couple of things to consider tonight, is we strongly feel that if this committee recommends to the full commission that common council that we sell this, it will considerably impact our opportunities to do improvements to that intersection. And although we don't have any existing plans developed, and although we don't have any anything that is even showing some remote funding of improvements to that intersection, it will eliminate any opportunity to do so in the future.
All right, question I would have for you, Antonio, is that is there any time in the future, the near future, we're going to have this information? I mean, I would hate to vote on this stuff if it comes back to bite us later on because we had restructuring of the passageway here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear in the study that was done, I think 2007, it's very clear, and if you've been down that way, that entire intersection definitely needs some help. So, although we don't have the full development of drawings, the full scope of what those improvements are, it basically comes down to you would eliminate any opportunity for that should the parcel be sold.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Is there a design or some information down the pipe that we think?
No, the only information we do have is that engineering-wise and planning-wise, there's definitely some improvements that should be done to that intersection to improve the traffic flow and the pedestrian flow, through that intersection. That's the information we currently have.
Yeah, one of the recommendations that the study made is to have White Street all the way 4 lanes from Patriot all the way to Federal. And as Dennis started, he started improving the first section of it in front of the college, and we did finish phase 1, call it. And as money becomes available from different sources of state funding, we move forward into improving section at a time. Right now, we don't have current plans on any improvement, but the study recommended that we need 4 lanes for future handling of traffic on White Street. And what that means is, even if we sell it today, down the road we're going to go back and tell them, sell it back to us, so we have right of way.
John, any questions?
Yes.
In all fairness, could I ask the petitioners what they intend to do with this piece of property?
Yes. First of all, I'm glad everybody's looking at this piece of property. I was born and raised in this area. I was born in Whitefield. And years ago, the road, they corrected the road and made it in line with Walnut Street. It used to go straight. Lefty Stand used to go right like that. This was a corner piece of property that my father bought. He bought it from the mortgage, and he built the building for General Tire. As far as purchasing the property, I don't have to purchase it. Lease it to me. I will clean it up. Okay? I'll put a little bench here for people to wait for the buses. Right now, the brush has been allowed to grow. Have you seen the property?
Yes.
And it's it's unsightly. So we would do all that. We would lease it for the value of what you want it up to buy is. And we'll clean it up and use it. It'll be good for the city. It'll be good for people who are waiting for the bus. And it will be fine. Other than that, we'll purchase it.
If I can just finish, for the aesthetic to this piece of property right now, I don't know what you're talking about, but I noticed the piece in the back is overgrown a little bit. But there is a beautiful tree.
I don't think you're supposed to write on it.
Right?
Be careful about writing on it.
Oh, you don't want to write on it? There is a beautiful tree in the center of this property. How much parking, you said you're going to beautify the piece. How much more can you beautify it?
Well,
there's a beautiful lawn there that I guess the city mows.
Well,
plus this tree there. Right here it's just a little bit overgrown. But how much of that are you going to use for parking? And what would you do with that tree that's on there?
We'll give it to you again. Here it is. Here's what we're going to do with it, or something like this. We'll put the parking there. And
whereabouts is the parking? Half of it or the entire thing for parking?
Well, what we can get in here and have some beautification on the very corner.
Let me just interject. This map here is just a conceptual. So a surveyor just said, hey, if you wanted to maximize parking, we could do this. That's all. It was never meant to be anything that this is exactly what we're...
My question is, if they're going to maximize the piece of property for parking, is that what you intend to do?
Correct. For parking. Correct, yeah.
That answers my question. Sure.
I'm going to express my opinion, and then this is for purposes or for the committee members. At this point in time, I don't think I can support the sale or the lease because nobody approached me personally about possibly leasing it as an option. I was excited about the possibility when it was first presented, but then I didn't know what Antonio told us about the whole intersection and the utilities and everything else that you brought forward that would be impacted if the property was sold. So what I am going to suggest, and this is up to the committee members again, is that we continue this meeting to get some additional information and meet at a later date to decide the petitioner's request.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we've got the petitioners here. We've got the Corporation Council planning. Any questions? So I think we could, what is this particular question you might have?
The thing that I have a concern with is what Antonio told us, how the intersection's got to be improved, and that there's nothing on the table yet as far as to how they're going to do that and how they're going to pay for it. So what I'm concerned with, in all due respect to the Scousels, whom I appreciate their efforts coming out here, is if we don't know what we're going to do with that intersection yet because if the plans haven't been made, then I don't want to give away that or sell that property if we're going to have to somehow pick it back up again to do the improvements of the traffic pattern there. I'm not against relinquishing the ownership to these folks, but I want to make sure all our bases are covered.
Just one question maybe the public works can address. I recall somewhere along the line that intersection, did the state have anything to do with that? That we're going to realign that corner, White Street and Locust? Wasn't there a long-range plan for that? I can't even remember something about it.
There's actual work proposed just over. What's that?
Over the city road.
Yeah, it's the city road. But I think what you're referring to is some work that is being done just on the other side of Federal and Newtown.
Is that parcel involved in this one?
No, no.
But that's state.
That's state. Yeah, this is all city. We actually own and operate and maintain White Street.
Up to the light.
Yeah.
You're right, John. It's from Federal Road all the way to Plum Trees, the other way, not this. Just for clarification in your mind.
That's the state.
That's the state was going to go and improve it.
Yeah, I also have concerns, and a couple of my concerns are that in the paperwork it says that the purchase price is to be determined by the tax collector, the tax assessor. We don't have her here. That's a piece that's kind of missing. I'd kind of like her input on, what we're doing also. And the A2 survey, which I realize we don't have, and I guess my question is it an unreasonable request to ask for the A2 survey prior to continuing with this?
Can I think it's incumbent on us to determine conceptually whether we're going to sell or lease this before we require them to go out and spend a lot of money on an A2 survey, because, obviously this is not an A2 survey, but it's a pretty good...
Well, actually it is.
We've had a A2 survey.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is an A2?
Yeah.
It's just a land surveyor.
It's not signed, but it's
Why
certified.
were we looking for a new A2? Yeah, that's right. It was in our checklist.
I sent the appraisal when I sent the original letter in. I didn't know how it worked. Yeah.
But, I think we have a lot more unanswered questions to address, especially with the raising of this lease issue. That's an interesting.
Originally, that's what I wanted to do. But originally, what I wanted to do was clean the property up, be able to park some cars, be able to pretty the corner up, because, quite frankly, it needs it. It would save the city from maintaining it. We would be able to use it, be able to pay the city money. We would maybe get 6 or 8 cars, maybe 10 cars in there. We have plenty of parking anyhow, but it would just be a good thing to do. As far as owning it, we certainly don't have to own it. We certainly don't have to encumber any future design plans or anything like that. Originally, the proposal was to lease, not buy, and then we said, well, let's get the appraisal, so we find out no key is the man, don't you do it, and that's the reason why we're here. But we'll do whatever.
And just to reinforce what my dad is saying is the property survey dated 12/16/08 is titled City of Land to be leased, because we did want to do a lease first, so that's what we thought would be the most acceptable.
The mayor's
he's Mayor Mark would have representing a purchase. He was thinking about a purchase, so
but I don't think anybody was focusing on the long term.
No.
Yeah, I do want to just say, I think we officially, I would hate to come back here one more night and tell you again that we're kind of a little concerned if you sell this property what the future impact would be to us improving this intersection. So, we'd like to officially go on the record say that we would have to recommend that you don't do it. And two, I've had a little history with, a short history, because I've only been here a short time, but I've had a little history with this board taking a position about leasing city land. If you remember, we went through 3 or 4 meetings regarding leasing some property to a doctor, and his name's going to escape me. Right, next to Broadview Middle School. And
had to bring that up, didn't you?
no, I have to bring the thorn out and stick a few people with it. But I just want to tell you that I think at that point, what you said publicly is that, not you specifically, but I think what the common council was basically saying as a policy is that they really were not interested in leasing portions of publicly owned property to facilitate future business use or current business use or potential business expansion. So I just want to put that on the table for everybody to kind of chew on for a little bit. But, you know, I think we're pretty much set in our opinion and our recommendation to this committee as far as selling it. Obviously, you know, you guys can take that recommendation, not take it, but that's kind of where we're at. It is a most ideal piece of property for a dedicated right-turning lane, which may end up having to be done, which would eliminate the congestion in the north-south travel portion of this White Street. So that's kind of where we stand.
Okay, there's some video footage from an ad hoc committee meeting talking about property on the corner of Locust and White Street. I'm sorry we can't show the whole thing because we're running out of time here. We got a couple more quick things we have to do. But you'll be able to see that video in its entirety up on my website, www.hatcityblog.com. So make sure you go over there and check it out. And you'll get to hear what happened at the end of this ad hoc committee where Mary Ty Schultz and Greg Seabury didn't quite do the right thing, at least in my opinion. So that's there. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed all the video clips and stuff that we're showing today, stuff that's happening in the greater Danbury area. And to round off things, I want to talk about some things that are happening back here in Danbury with a former candidate for mayor. Former candidate for mayor from 2007, and also a host of a particular show here, and an anti-immigrant activist by the name of John McGowan, was in a little bit of some legal turmoil right now, and that was not really reported very well in the News Times, so I just want to bring it up right now. A few days ago, in fact a couple of weeks ago, actually July 28th, Mr. McGowan, I will read the article right here. A Bethel man was charged with first-degree sexual assault Monday as a result of an investigation by the New Milford Police. John McGowan, 43 of Fairfield Drive, was charged with first-degree sexual assault, and Police Lieutenant James Duda said that the alleged victim was an adult female who McGowan was involved with last year. Now, Mr. McGowan was scheduled to be arraigned in the Bantam courthouse a couple of days ago, but that arraignment was being pushed forward to September 1st of this year, so I will be there to find out everything that went down with that case. That is a very serious matter, and I just thought that should be reported because this person was a very active member of the anti-immigrant community, including the vice president of Luis Marciano's group, as well as treasurer of Paul Strites' group, which was the first anti-immigrant group here in the area. So thanks a lot for watching the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed everything I showed, and next week we will have a roundtable discussion about all the big races happening here in the greater Danbury area. So for the Ideas of Working Beyond crew, I am Al Robinson. You can catch up my site on hatcityblog.com, or you can read me on the Danbury News Times website. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next week. And Marty will be here, so take care.
DJ Nelly. She was more like a beauty queen of a movie scene. She had